Righto, off you go, mate. There you go. Welcome back, or welcome to the Joint Dynamics Intelligent Movement Series podcast. Today's a special day. It's the first time I've ever done this podcast in collaboration with Monday Live, spelt M-U-N-D-A-Y. Thanks for coming here, Wilson, and helping the Joint Dynamics podcast out. We're going to shout this one out to YouTube. My special guest today is my good mate Miles Price, hanging out over there in the corner there. A little bit about Miles Price. So Miles is a clinical nutritionist and a functional medicine practitioner. He's the founder and director of Peak Metabolism. How are you today, Miles?
I'm very good, Andrew. Thank you very much for asking. How are you doing?
Great to be hanging out with you again, mate.
Always great.
Miles and I, as a point of interest, we started the Western Price Foundation here in Hong Kong with a dentist by the name of Dr. David Braga. Was it 12? No, my daughter's 15, mate. It was 16 years ago.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, however long. We ran that until life got in the way, didn't we? But along the way, with running the Western Price Foundation, I learned a lot of important nutritional facts and health and lifestyle facts from Miles. It was a great experience for me. And now as the curator and host of the Joint Dynamics podcast, I'd like to share with you an event that we did. So was it last Thursday, Miles?
Yeah.
Here at Joint Dynamics, part of what we do. So we do obviously personal training, physical therapy, massage therapy, osteopathy, psychology, sports testing, and all of that stuff. But also we run events. So I curated an event called Inside Scoop, and the topic was longevity. So it was Joint Dynamics, Peak Metabolism, and a whole host of other companies where we come together. We got a heap of people in, and we just talked about, in this example, a very pertinent topic, and the topic is longevity. If you are consuming any popular culture at the moment, it is everywhere. And I think to frame the conversation, we can say why longevity is coming up. But because there's a load of Silicon Valley billionaires that want to live to beyond 120.
Huge amounts of money in it.
Yeah, which is valid. But then if we scratch the surface a little bit and think, well, why is there so much energy going into longevity? We can also look at it from a point of view where we're at this very curious period of time on the history of the planet Earth, where what demographers call there's going to be an inversion of the demographic pyramid. Up until now, there's always been this pyramid when we talk about the demographics of age, where there was a lot of young people here at the bottom of the pyramid and not very many old people at the top of the pyramid. What's happening now within this generation, it will be the first time ever in this planet's history that there will be more people over the age of 65 than there is people under the age of 18. Now, that's a novel challenge, let's say, for the planet Earth, and it's very new. But also when we look at what happens when you become over the age of 65, for example, choosing that number, 80% of people over the age of 65 have a chronic ailment.
At least one.
Yeah, at least one. Yeah, well, 50%, the statistics are 50% of them have two.
Yeah. So
then we go, well, okay, so if we simplify it, it seems heartless, but just from an economics perspective, potentially, we say, well, there's a contributor column, and the contributors, very simply, they pay tax. I work, you work, Miles, Wilson works for Monday Live, and we all pay tax to the government. From that, some people draw money, so just some over the age of 65. However it is in my life, I didn't amass the resources to be able to support myself in retirement. Maybe I had to retire as a result of poor health.
Yeah.
As a result of being over the age of 65 and having at least one chronic condition, 8 out of 10 of them, I'm now dependent upon the government to look after my healthcare needs.
Not just the government, your children.
Yeah, but let's just say that children don't have it, then it's the government's role to look after. That's what we're attacked.
Yeah.
So after World War II, there was a lot of debt, but at that time, the baby boomers got active, didn't they? And there was 17 in the contributor column to support every one person in the dependent, meaning 17 people paying tax, one person over the age of 65, for example, who was retired and drawing on that pool of money to be able to support them for all their needs in retirement. Now that number is less than a third of that. So it becomes a really curious problem where we've already reached peak baby. So, if we look at Japan lost, was it 300,000 people last year? If we dive into population decline just quickly before I throw into Miles, every person that can give birth to a baby, let's call it a woman, for goodness sake, a female with a uterus, needs to have 2 point, well, you tucked your chin there, but it's hard for me to talk about, isn't it? Need to have 2.1 children per female to maintain population stability. So everything stays the same at 2.1. And if we look at what's happening in Hong Kong, do you remember what the numbers were, Miles?
1.5, wasn't it?
No, 0.8.
0.8.
0.8, Miles. We are 0.8.
That's ridiculous.
And Singapore I think was 0.1. Korea was 0.9. Macau was 0.9. There's not many. The whole of Scandinavia is below 2.1. Mexico is below 2.1. China is below 2.1 and about to, within this population, suggested to go into population decline. So when we frame it from, and just to add one more point to that, who has the highest replacement rate? Yeah, it's called Niger. They've 7. Every lady gives birth to 7 kids in Niger. Now that's not the answer, for example, but what is being proposed as the answer, and it's actually a coincidence, the rise of longevity, the science behind longevity, the science of extend your health span to extend your lifespan. And ideally, if we just finalise my point to introduce this conversation, if we can keep working for another 3 to 5 years, meaning stay in the contributor column for another 3 to 5 years, mathematically we might be all right. So the topic is so vast, and it's not actually just about these guys, the guys in Silicon Valley putting a lot of money into it for a reason, to stay younger as they age. It's much bigger than that, and it's a fascinating topic, and I'm so glad to be able to share it with you again today, Miles.
Yeah, well, you brought up some very important points why people are interested in longevity, but more importantly is the reason also I think people are having children later. The average age of having a child 20 years ago for a woman was age 25. Now in the UK it's 32. And that trend is just going up. And Gordon Ramsay's wife just had a baby today, age 49.
Go on.
So, when you think about women having older babies, they need to be in better health as they're getting older. So as you're getting older, having children, you need to think about, right, I need to be in good health as I bring up my child, as I'm getting into my 50s, into my 60s. You wouldn't be thinking about that 20 years ago because your kids would have been already grown up and left the home. So now the context, so many driving factors thinking about, as you're saying, why longevity. But I think one of the major drivers has been the research. I mean, Dr. David Sinclair, one of the pioneers of looking at this area back in the early 90s, looked at longevity in mice models, other mammals, and started to see dramatic increases by stressing the mice, the rats, on various treadmill tests, and seeing the improvements in their longevity by depleting one nutrient, adding an extra nutrient, and seeing how that mouse or rat would live or not live longer. And, that results in his book, and which is Lifespan, and I think, or Healthspan. And I think that is what's driving this whole interest in the development of research in that area, which every other longevity specialist doctors now following on. So, all credit to Dr. Sinclair, but I think there's still a lot of research which needs to happen. I still think we're still at the tipping points of just understanding what the implications from a mouse model to a human life. And I don't think we've got all the data yet. So
I think another change in the way that we view this topic was when we classified aging as a disease.
Yeah.
And then if we look at the cause of cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, and many types of cancer, aging will be the number one driver of those diseases. So, for example, if you're a lady I remember Volta Longo's book, The Longevity Diet. In his book, he mentions breast cancer. And if you're a lady in her 20s, comparative to a lady over the age of 65, a lady over the age of 65 has a 2,000% increased risk of having breast cancer than a lady in her 20s.
Yeah.
So now there's been a shift, not just about focusing on the disease, cardiovascular disease, or the disease type 2 diabetes, but now we're saying let's focus on aging as the disease, and if we can increase, there's that word again, the health span, if we can push back aging, not the chronological aging but the biological aging, then we push the diseases that rob us of health and life ultimately to a much later phase. And then hopefully as well in this industry, they're talking about compress morbidity. So instead of spending 5 years in a nursing home where they are treating my disease, the idea is push back all those diseases that accumulate or appear as a result of aging. And then hopefully what I would love, Miles, is to quote unquote fall off a cliff in a couple of months.
I think that's the best way to go.
5 years.
Let's just be honest. I mean, if we could just fall off a cliff, if we just fall off a cliff metaphorically, we'll go to sleep one night at the age of 95, wake up and in heaven. I mean, I think if anyone put their hand up and said that's the best way to go, that is it. I mean, why would you want to be in a nursing home, your kids seeing you at the age of 90 or 70 even, and you're stuck, you can't do anything, and all they're feeding you is crap in a nursing home. They're not helping you move around. They're just keeping you alive for the purpose of what? And I think this is another whole thing about geriatric care, which we could branch into. But I think the whole element is, how do you measure age? How fast do you know you're aging? And what can you do about it? And this also dovetails into what anti-aging doctors say is, I need to give you extra hormones to help you live longer. But you just raised a point about, well, if I give you bioidentical hormones like estrogen, your lifetime exposure to estrogen, it actually determines your risk of breast cancer or ovarian cancer. So is it good to give extra estrogen as a bioidentical hormone replacement to extend life but increase the risk of cancer? Why don't we have that discussion with these anti-aging doctors to make that more of an open platform? Because there is a risk to extra estrogen in the body. And I don't think all women are aware of that risk. So the point being is, yes, we want to make sure the hormones are optimal, but optimal for your age, not optimal for someone who's a 30 or 20-year-old. I don't think that's the goal when it comes to anti-aging implications. But I think from a context of hormones, definitely need optimal regulation and looking at those hormones individually, assessing them, how to get them in the right levels, and then that reduces your risk of cancer, heart disease, dementia potentially. So these are the things we need to be looking at from a hormonal perspective.
Well, I think that probably leads us into some strategies already then, Miles.
Yeah.
So if we were to pass information in this platform, that's reasonable to pass on this platform, and that is a podcast, understanding it's not a bespoke. When we start talking about hormones and we start talking about optimal hormone range for your age, and that can be quite a bespoke experience to get that one right.
Yeah.
But to share of value in this platform, if we start with strategies, mate. If I came to you at the age of, well, here you go, let's play the real game, Mark. My name's Andrew and I'm 50 years of age. And I definitely want to...
You look 50, mate.
Thank you, mate. You're very good at this. Give me a little fist bump.
I've been giving you any tips yet.
Yeah. Well, it's just good genes, potentially, which do play a part. But actually, we're really talking about epigenetics, aren't we? The influence of the external environment on my genes to stimulate them to express a positive response as opposed to a negative response, which increases my vitality and therefore my life.
Yeah.
So if we were to dive into some strategies, if I was to come to you as a functional medicine practitioner, where would we start? And I say, hey, Miles, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
50 years old, wife, kids, family, run a business here. I've got a fair bit of stress, but I love it.
Right.
So where do I start?
So first off is we need to determine your function, the basic function of your body. Are you producing energy well? Do you have any underlying inflammation? Do you have the basic nutrients for functioning of your cellular activity? Are the cells sensing nutrients in the appropriate way? So we do various blood tests or laboratory tests to determine all those factors. And so when we're talking about nutrient sensing, for example, we need to make sure we're getting all the basics in there for the cells to function, to do what they need. So we're talking amino acids, the fatty acids, the glucose. These are the macros you need to get every single day, but at the right levels.
And there's, just out of curiosity, why don't you just say protein, fats, and carbohydrates then? It's just...
Well, we were talking as a macro level of nutrition. So macro is, those three are the essential macros. And if you break those down, then you're determining if you're getting that in your diet, looking at a particular test, for example, or not. And if you're not getting it, how is that affecting form and function of your body, your tissues, your cells, your organs, in fact. And then you are determining your function if you have enough. For example, if you don't get enough protein, how's that going to affect your muscular function, your memory, your gut function? What's the breakdown of the detrimental effects of not getting enough protein? And I'm talking about amino acids, which are the building blocks.
Yeah. Well, so let's hang on that.
Yeah.
Let's just say there's 20 amino acids, 9 of those, which we call essential amino acids. You need to get them from your food.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, 3 of those are in the branched chain amino acid category, and then one that comes up quite frequently as far as keeping this stuff, keeping your strength and your muscle mass, is leucine.
That's right.
But it seems to be a controversial topic, doesn't it? Almost hesitate when we go, oh, geez, here we go, we're talking about protein. Right. Everybody's got their opinion.
Yeah.
Let's share, if you don't mind, let's share your opinion.
Well, let's break it down. If you had 100 grams of, say, let's talk about animal protein, how much actual protein would 100 grams of beef, lamb will give you? It will give you around about 30 grams of protein, which is okay for an animal protein. Eggs will give you around 18 grams of protein.
Yeah, I thought one egg would give you about 5 to 7 grams of protein.
Sorry, I'm talking 100 grams of eggs.
Oh, sorry. You cleared that up. Wow, that's a super egg.
Yeah, that's an ostrich.
Sorry. No, we're in the category of per 100 grams. So we could look from those meats about 30%, from an egg about 18%.
18 grams.
Yeah, which is 18% of 100.
Yeah.
Got it.
So then we go to tofu, and then we go to now plant-based proteins. Yes. It drops right down to below 10 or 8. So if you're comparing 100 grams of tofu and nuts versus 100 grams of meat, what is going to give you the protein requirements your body needs on a daily basis? So for an 80-kilo body...
That's me.
You're
stay with me.
Kilo,
let's stay with me.
You need about 120 grams, 130 grams of protein a day, net protein, not actual weight of the food.
Yeah, so net protein.
Net protein your body needs on a daily basis. Now, this is hardly achieved by a lot of people. And the only way you can really check, well, one of the ways you can check, you can do a test called a liver function test, tells you your total protein. It's a crude level of determining how much protein is coming in your body. But then the next level is functional medicine testing, and that when you look at your amino acid status, and you can see the individual amino acids you may be deficient in. And here's the crux, is that if you are toxic, if you have environmental challenges coming into your body, if you are stressed, certain amino acids will be used up a lot more compared to other amino acids. So, for example, if you are toxic, you're going to use up your body's pool of glycine. So glycine is essential for making an amino acid called glutathione. Glutathione is a major detoxifying agent for your body. And if you don't get enough glycine to help with your glutathione production, then you're going to not make enough glutathione.
Can I just interject for a second there? But then that's sort of, I know it seems like I'm jumping miles, but let's just go with my brain thought. Because a lot of people, if I was to dive into Wilson here and say, hey, mate, Wilson had some animal protein. Yeah. And I'm sure that most people are eating muscle meats. Yeah. Lean muscle meats, which are high in that have a certain amino acid profile. And then, there goes the light. And then other animal sources of protein, for example, organ meats or skin, tendon, bone, have a different type of profile of amino acids. So if I was to hypothesize on what the general public have, most of them are eating muscle meat.
I'd say 95%.
95%. So that means that they're not getting the proline and glycine that they would from these other types of...
That's correct. That's correct, from bone broth or bone meal. Yeah. And so I think it's just determining not only the type of animal protein, but where does it come from in the body. And obviously there are other benefits eating organ meats beyond amino acids, because their nutrients profile, how many nutrients they have, is so dense. You cannot compare liver to, say, a broccoli. The nutrient content of liver is super dense.
It's a superfood, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a superfood.
But there's not enough space in the profit to call it a superfood and market it that way.
No, because everyone thinks liver is disgusting. It tastes disgusting. I'm not going to eat it. And, but liver pate is another version of having liver, which is a little bit more tasteful.
Just on that, get on the Weston Price Foundation. That's my wife makes it inspired by Weston Price Foundation.
Yeah.
Even the Healthy Home Economist. Gives you that book, Nourishing Traditions, mate. I kiss that every day of my life.
Yeah.
But he has a great recipe because we have liver pate.
It's a great.
And side note to parents, and Miles and I are parents. Not often, Miles just said it. Liver's a pretty gnarly taste for a lot of people. We cheekily take tablespoonfuls of liver pate and put it in our kids' risotto and mix it into dishes that they wouldn't know as they're getting a bit of liver a bit more frequently than what they would. It's a great tip to your parents out there. I'll tell you what.
That's a really good idea. And
seriously, it works amazing.
Yeah. So I think understanding the role of amino acids has a critical role to development, but not only development for immune function, neurotransmitter management, gut function, so many benefits of getting your optimal, and not forgetting muscle tissue.
Yeah, especially as we age.
This is what we have to forget. We forget about, because aging does mean loss of muscle tissue for a lot of people. And if you're having your tofu every day because you believe that tofu is a great plant protein, eventually you're going to get sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle tissue, and that eventually is going to weaken your ability to stabilize, to function, to move around. And who knows where that will lead you?
Well, again, there's no absolutes, but most people end up in a nursing home, not due to illness, but due to lack of strength and their partner, or they don't have their strength anymore for independent living.
Right.
So that, as a result, they need to be in constant care, not because cognitive decline or not because the disease that I have has robbed me of vitality. It's my strength, my lack of muscle mass, my lack of capacity, potentially just to get off the toilet by myself or get out of bed leaves me. I need constant care.
Well, then you're moving into the definition of frailty and what is frailty, and we're talking about senescent cells and what the accumulation of the cells are doing to the body, increasing inflammation, reducing output of energy. So you're basically going to come slower and more frail, which means you can't move as well because your body's more stiffer. So a culmination of factors determining frailty.
Yeah.
But I think that's something which, if you don't address it, it slowly creeps up on you. People say, it's okay, I'm just getting old, it's all right, I can cope, I'm fine. But that attitude, which a lot of people have when they're in their 50s or 60s, ultimately determines their last decade of life, which is going to be very frail and stuck in a home. And I think a lot of people aren't motivated enough to be very consistent in how to manage or how to determine what aspects of getting old they're doing, or how fast they are aging. And no one really knows in conventional medicine how to address that, because you can do your annual medical. The doctor tells you, you're fine, I'll see you next year, but you're going to get an ache here, you're going to get a pain here, there's one marker which is not slightly good, but you forget about it and the doctor forgets about it, and then the next year you do another annual medical and that marker gets a little bit worse, but the doctor says you're still within the range, don't worry about it, you're fine. And then he waits for something to actually happen, like a chronic event. And then you put on some medication bandwagon to help maintain your health. But that's the point of no return for a lot of people, because once they're put on medication, it literally is a slippery slope downhill, because you're not taking control of your health. You're giving it to someone else to tell you how to manage your health. And I don't think that's what we should be doing with health for longevity. Yeah. We should be empowering.
One of my mates says, g'day Dave, one of my mates says, if you do the hard things, you'll have an easy life.
Yeah.
If you only do the easy things, you're going to have a hard life.
My dad actually said that. And
your dad as well?
Yeah, he lived to a good old ripe age with 2 knee replacements, but he still lived to a ripe old age. And I tell you, if you work hard when you're young, your life will be easy when you're old.
Well, working hard when you're old as well.
Oh, yeah, but
Hang on, let's go back, because the nature of the way that Miles and I talk, we jump all over the place, but I don't want to leave anything left out. So we started on the amino acids, fatty acids, and sugar. And just to finalize that point, because that was very interesting for me, that the more stress you have in the body, that depletes a certain amino acid called glycine. So that would be just sometimes when I'm working with clients and people in Hong Kong have a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Well, people in the world have a lot of stress, don't they, Miles? You
They
know?
do.
And one of my go-tos is, well, stress depletes magnesium in the body. Are you eating a lot of green leafy vegetables, or do we look into supplementation for magnesium?
Yeah.
For example. And now I will add to that, I'll go, wow, are you getting enough glycine in your diet? And if you're only eating muscle meat, I would go, I don't think you are. I would encourage you to make bone broth. Or is there a case for someone with high stress to look at taking a collagen protein in your eyes, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, stress is a very interesting term to determine. And
it ages you as well.
Yeah, you chronically, you get really wrinkly skin if you see someone who's got a lot of stress in their lives. It really depletes your collagen very quickly. And so stress is really affected by, we're talking about amino acids, but how good your sleep is. So, you know, everyone says, oh, I don't need much sleep. Well, actually, you do need a lot of sleep. And determining how well you sleep, if it's good enough, is something which, again, is not really assessed for a lot of people. They just wake up the next day and go, oh, I feel okay, I'll get to work, I'm fine, I'll have my coffee. But did you have enough sleep, and was it quality? So, you know, for those people, there are assessments you can do for that. But coming back to the stress, it's looking at particular markers like your cortisol profile. You can measure your cortisol over 24 hours. You can measure your HRV. And these are heart rate variability. So these are factors which clinically can be used by clinicians to say, oh, you're a bit too stressed. Now let's put you on a regime of managing your stress better from your home environment, from your work environment. Now we can take some supplements to manage your stress to help you do that. And look, you see your cortisol now is better, your HRV is improved. These are the kind of interventions we do want to tell people, because HRV is a good indicator of stress, quite a quick, good indicator. And if you're always on the go and you're not relaxed, then that's not a good recipe for long life.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because rewind the tape for a minute ago, we just said, do the hard things and you'll have an easy life, do the easy things. So do the hard things. That's stress.
Yeah.
But we need to be stress aficionados. And as far as in my world out in the gym there in Joint Dynamics, the way that we work with clients, and we are stress aficionados. We manage stress. We manage clients' energy.
Yeah.
So what takes energy away from the body is stress. What brings energy back to the body is recovery.
Yeah.
So we have this equation between how much stress and how much recovery we put into somebody's body system in order to maximize growth, gains, and minimize chance of injury and burnout.
Yeah.
So I think I'm so glad that you said that, because maybe someone was going, hang on a minute, you're just saying we need to be stressed, but we don't need to be stressed.
Yeah.
You need to be stressed.
Yeah.
But
for short period.
An adaptive stress, or hormetic stress.
Yeah.
And usually if we do our best to define that in a very nebulous way, it's like what you just alluded towards.
Yeah.
Higher intensity, shorter periods of stress with adequate recovery. But when stress is chronic, and you're unsure of when it's going to end, and you're getting hit with things from many different directions, that's a type of stress that we don't readily adapt to, and that can be erroneous, or that can rob us of our health, vitality, longevity.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. But the point I think a lot of people don't realize is the effects of stress, mental stress from screens in front of our face, which I don't think a lot of people take into account, because a screen is going to put something in front of your mind which either makes you more anxious, makes you more envious, makes you more, I don't know, sort of, not realistically getting somewhere where you want to be, because you think that's unachievable, but you want to get there. And that, I think, is beyond a lot of people's ability to really process, because they do that and go, well, hang on, I can't achieve this, but I must achieve this. I can't. So this mental merry-go-round is really quite hard for a lot of people. And I think what, no taking off any disrespect to what Andrew Huberman is telling us, to get up in the morning, get in the sun, measure your sleep, do this, do that. I think that in itself, measuring your daily biohacking, can be stressful. Checking your phone, for some people. So we've got to take it into account that why can't we just switch off, go for a long walk in the evening, come home from work. Just going for long walks can be really de-stressing. And a lot of
after dinner, to help you regulate your
blood glucose
levels. I think to do.
So I think those daily lifestyle habits, without checking your phone all the time, is probably going to be as good as any grandmother you probably chatted to about her life would have been doing when she was growing up and getting older. So, going back to what our grandparents did is probably a very good reference point to how did you de-stress when you were, getting stressed in your old days. I would follow that as an example.
Yeah. So periods of doing nothing is actually very productive.
Absolutely.
I'm hearing you, mate. Yeah. That's a bit of an oxymoron. So let's go back to Andrew, 50-year-old, coming to see Miles, functional medicine practitioner, because I'm doing all right, Miles, but I want to do better, and I'm committed to meeting my great-great-grandchildren. So let's just say I want to live for 98's a great number for me. It really is. I'd like to go to 98. And then you mentioned those certain tests that you might do.
Yeah.
And then you would walk away, and I would come back and see you after you understand me and just say, hey, Andrew, but literally Andrew runs a business. There's 4 owners of John Dynamics.
Yeah.
There's 70-odd staff. So that in it, so it's an amazing opportunity. I'm thankful every day. But it does bring certain stressful situations when you run business. And I'm my goodness, Miles, we've just been through 3 years of COVID, which cost me a couple of sleepless nights, I'd tell you.
Yeah.
So there's that inherent stress. I love my family to bits, but every now and then having kids, you got 1, I got 2, every now and then that brings an element of stress. Love my wife to bits as well. Sometimes being in a relationship with someone else brings stress. So there's many stresses that come to us, and obviously gratitude. I'm incredibly grateful for what I have, seriously. But that will get me so far, and then my physical lifestyle of being very active.
Well, you hit it on the head. You can't take away one aspect of longevity, which is looking at your physical capability of not just measuring, as you mentioned, we were talking strength, mobility, flexibility, but what I would call there's an element of measurement of health called VO2 max.
Yeah.
So VO2 max is your respiratory cardiovascular fitness to take oxygen and get it inside the cells. So taking it from the air to your lungs, to the cells.
To the muscles.
To the muscles even.
It seems simpler, isn't it?
And that measurement is a very good marker of longevity, which Dr. Peter Attia goes on about quite extensively.
Yeah, it does.
And I think what we don't understand is what that importance of that is, and how it is easy to do that, up-regulate that level of VO2 max just by good walking.
Yeah. And
people forget how, steady state walking, where you're getting a little bit out of breath, should be a way of achieving that goal. But it's not really discussed as a goal for longevity, because everyone's trying to take the magic pill. Well, I say let's focus on the physical aspects maybe first, and maybe some elements of dietary optimization, and you're probably going to tick off a lot of the great boxes of longevity. The sort of testing for this magic deficiency to fix that super longevity gene is I think the sort of icing of the cake, which a lot of people are trying to fix without actually doing the foundation. The foundations you have to fix.
That's a super point. If you want to get the most bang for your buck, and let's be black and white, if you want to live for a longer period of time, with a good quality life, then you need to be strong, fit. VO2 max is relatively a quantifiable measurement of fitness. So strong, fit, eat good food, and then get enough recovery. Have good social relationships.
Social relationships is a key one. It's a really key. Yeah. I would drive that. There was a study done about some group of American Italians who went to America, to New York, and there was a study done of a group of Italians who came together and formed their community, and some Italians got heart disease, but they lived much longer than those Italians who didn't live in a community and were isolated by themselves, and they didn't have the fellow Italians to socialize and mix with. Just proving a point how following a standard craft American diet, you can be actually at a greater risk if you're isolated of getting some chronic disease and dying of that much quicker than someone if you were part of a community and just sharing with someone, I've got heart disease. Have you got heart disease? Yeah, I've got heart disease. Oh, damn, that's a pain in your...
Yeah.
And then realizing that, it's okay, don't worry, I've got our grandkids around us, we've got our family around us. It's fine, I'm going to die one day. It's only going to be heart disease for. What's wrong with that? So I think the context is why, the social influence is really, really important. And in Sardinia, one of the blue zones, one of the places where they have the longest living Italians or people in Europe, they're extremely social. All these old guys gathering together.
Yeah, and the piazza.
Yeah, the piazza.
Yeah. My wife's father's from.
Yes, Sardinia. Well, there you go. It's in the genes.
Good gene for my kids. Thank goodness I married my wife.
Very good.
You know what I think would be great, Miles, if we dive into a little bit of the nutrition.
Yeah.
We can also talk about strength training along the way, but I'm happy to share some stuff. Lift heavy stuff. Look after your joint health, which means you'll be able to continue to lift heavy stuff. Do weights, my goodness, people. Do resistance training. If you're not sure how to do that, get a coach or go online. There's some good products, good services online that you can get. But understand, if we are talking about longevity, what happens here at Joint Dynamics, it's quite a unique model in the sense of we have the clinical influence with the gym, and what will stop people getting the resistance or the load into their tissues to maintain or increase muscle mass will be degeneration of joint health.
Yeah.
So one thing that's here at Joint Dynamics, what I'm very attuned to is, well, along with getting the resistance training, there's certain understanding the architecture of joints and understanding the how movement affects the joint health and stuff. We got to surround our resistance training with adequate joint health stuff as well. So putting that aside, as long as you maintain good joint health and you get adequate good form with your lifting, then you're going to increase or maintain muscle mass. That is an incredible thing to do.
Yeah.
VO2 max, maintain your fitness.
Yeah.
Miles mentioned walking. If you can walk for 5 kilometers at 4.8 kilometers per hour, how about you try to do that at 5 kilometers per hour next month?
Yeah.
And then, incrementally progress.
Yeah.
But don't just, otherwise you get the law of diminishing returns. And what once was an adaptive stress becomes a non-adaptive stress, and you start to lose muscle. You think, but I'm still walking my 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
You've got to keep pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
Do the hard things, easy life.
That's right.
Easy things, hard life. But now let's dive into nutrition, can we, mate?
So we talked about the amino acids just briefly. So I just to close that chapter, I would say
that bit on glycine.
Yeah, it's very important to just know your amino acid status and make sure you're getting it, hopefully from animal-based sources as much as possible.
Because it's just easy to assimilate.
It's easier to
more per 100 grams.
More bang for your buck in terms of amino acid content in the animal-based foods.
And if you're not, for moral reasons, then chickpeas, lentils, peas, beans, and even supplementation.
Well, supplementation from a amino acid powder, I very much recommend for most vegans, actually.
What's the brand? Just a side note.
I only use Perfect Amino.
Perfect Amino?
Perfect Amino by Body Health.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 100% utilizable amino acids compared to whey protein, which is 30% utilizable amino acids.
High in leucine, though.
Yeah, so that's just really good. So beyond that, you've got fatty acids.
Yeah,
so fatty acids are essential. So we have essential omega-3, omega-6, omega-9. So out of that category, omega-3 is what you find in fish oils. And there's a variation to the amount of fish oil most people require, but I would say, as a rough rule, about 2 grams per day for I would say 50% of people.
Hang on, just say 80 kilogram Andrew male.
Yeah.
You'd still say, because that's quite a broad general population. But you're happy with 2 grams, but just say, if I came to you, Andrew, 80 kilograms, active dudes, I'm stressing my body potentially physically.
Well, even then, Andrew, the best way to determine is you've got to do a red blood cell fatty acid profile.
Got to do it.
Yeah, because I have been taking, I'll just give you my reference point. So I eat 5-6 portions of oily fish every single week. And my red blood cell fatty acid for omega-3 is just normal. It's not at the high normal. So I have to eat 6 portions of oily fish away. Now, I know that I have a genetic SNP, meaning that I have a genetic requirement for more omega-3 fatty acids than the normal population. So I have to meet that demand by providing my body with more omega-3 fatty acids than the general population. And I think that this genetic variation will be very helpful for helping people understand their risk of inflammation, which is a cause of aging, related to fatty acids, because fatty acids control inflammation inside cells. They produce special compounds which control the cascade of inflammation inside cells. So I think it's a very important element to optimize.
Omega-3, is there, just because of the platform that we're delivering this information to, Miles, are there people out there that you would say, if this is you, if you're taking a certain type of medication now, don't take omega-3? Like,
So
any one or two?
Yeah, so if you're on blood thinning medication, you need to be careful about taking omega-3 fatty acids.
Yep, thank you for saying that.
And if you are on any other heart medication, you need to also be careful about omega-3s.
Yep.
But certainly blood thinners are the first one you've got to be careful with.
If in doubt, see your doctor, please.
Yeah. So beyond that, you've got omega-6, which you need a little bit of. But we just need to be careful how we're getting that. So that's related to your cooking oils, the nuts and seeds you're using. So cooking oil should always just be ghee, lard, maybe avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, but I would use those more for dressing. And then beyond that, your omega-9, which is your extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. And again, that's actually been touted as being a very beneficial oil, which a lot of people don't get enough. So I think you're getting at least 2 to 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil every single day.
Interesting point. Brian Johnson, the most measured man on the planet, guy that's very open with his protocols to maintain his longevity, his vitality. 15% on his when he shares what he's doing. 15% of his calories per day come from olive oil.
Yeah,
amazing. And now he's selling his own brand of olive oil as well.
I think there's a guy called Dr. Grundy who's got a podcast in the US, and he talks about extra virgin olive oil as one of the key anti-aging oils everyone should be taking. So I would put extra virgin olive oil, fish oil, or good omega-3, or good oily fish, however you want to call it, as a best combination. Mediterranean diet sort of following. I think that's a very good analogy. And a little bit of saturated fat. I don't really have a problem of someone getting less than maybe up to max 10% of your diet of saturated fat with the ghee.
From what sources?
With ghee, it would be
animal protein.
Yeah, animal protein. So the lard, maybe a bit of tallow, maybe a bit of eggs as a source of saturated fat.
Food
as well. Eggs are superfood. So
far out.
So you could get this saturated fat benefit from these foods. And of course, the tipping point for some people to be concerned about, and this is in a separate discussion, is whether your saturated fat increases the risk of heart disease. And what it does do, it does increase your LDL. But what we have to define is whether the saturated fat increasing your LDL is actually increasing your risk of heart disease. And what we don't know is all the facts yet, because there's a study coming out now with a guy called Dave Feldman, that he is getting a group of people with very high LDLs, very high low-density lipoprotein, bad cholesterol, and high total cholesterol, high HDL, high good cholesterol, and low triglycerides. And he's getting a group of 150 people. And what he's doing, he's testing them on a ketogenic diet for a period of 1 year. And what he's finding out is that before these people came on the trial, that he did a scan of their heart, he did a scan of whether there was any blockage of arteries with any heart disease, and he found for all these 125, I think 90% of these people actually had no heart disease present whatsoever. So they had very high cholesterol, very high bad cholesterol, and the presence of no heart disease for the vast majority.
Do you know the age of the average?
They were all men.
Yep.
And they were all over 50. Average age of 56. So this is going against the general wisdom and dogma of conventional medicine to say you have to lower your LDL to really low levels to manage your heart disease risk, when if you're what we call a lean mass hyperresponder, meaning that if you have a low carb ketogenic diet and you're very lean, your cholesterol is going to go up. Is that going to put you at a greater heart disease risk? And I think we will have this data very soon. So
that'll be some very interesting.
That'll be very interesting data, because this will turn the whole ethos of why we are talking about LDL cholesterol all the time. And we should be talking about glucose, insulin, inflammation, fatty acid oxidation, these are the drivers of heart disease. And so,
and then if we exploit a ketogenic diet, we'll certainly regulate or minimize the amount of insulin that is required for the system to put nutrition into the cells, for example.
Yeah.
And then if we also go back to another point that you just brought up, omega-6 tends to be pro-inflammatory.
That's right.
So getting that more ideal ratio of omega-3, omega-6.
Yeah.
Just on a side note of omega-6, is the omega-6 that I get from, let's say, highly likely those vegetable oils that I get have been oxidized?
Correct, yes.
Sunflower, safflower, cottonseed oil, rapeseed oil, those canola oil, there's a high likelihood that they're already oxidized. So the omega-6 that I get there, I can see that could create cellular damage, and I don't want to get that into my temple very often. But then I go, well, what about these nuts and seeds?
Yeah.
Can I put that type of omega-6 on the same chopping block, so to speak, as the omega-6 from the rancid oil?
No, they're separate. Yeah.
I think it's very important to delineate those, because I don't want to. Okay, there's a certain amount of nuts that you should have for your size. I'm not saying we gorge on nuts, but sometimes when I hear the common rhetoric behind omega-6, I just don't think we delineate the difference between the high likelihood of an already oxidized rancid oil coming from those vegetable oils that I'm.
So that's why you need a balance of omega-6 coming from nuts and seeds, because the oils inside the nut and seed are stable. They're not heated. They're stable oils. And as long as they're not sugar-coated or roasted or anything, that's fine. So I think it's these like the nuts you find, hazelnuts, pistachio nuts, pecan nuts. These are sort of the better nut, macadamia nuts. I'm not so much of a fan of the peanut because peanuts can be potentially inflammatory, and it's the linoleic acid, which is the acid you don't want too much of.
And that comes in, it's higher in peanuts.
That's higher in peanuts, and it's higher also in walnuts. So I just think it's the balance between that omega-3 ratio, omega-6, omega-3 ratio is an important balance just to optimize.
Yeah. So going back to your point on that very interesting research that we don't know yet from Dave Feldman.
Yeah.
Ketogenic diet helps minimize the amount of insulin in the system on a regular.
Well, that is the master, I would say, the master regulator of longevity. If you were going to focus on anything which was going to keep you living to a ripe old age, as a nutrient sensing hormone, is to keep your insulin so low as you possibly can, but test it every so often by eating some carbohydrates from doing some exercise and test its production, because one of the issues about ketogenic for long term is your pancreas forgets to produce it. It will forget to produce insulin in case you have some carbohydrates. So I would say for people who are generally healthy is to go keto for a period of time on low carb, and then have a bit of carbs, stimulate the pancreas a little bit, get the insulin spiking a little bit, and then go back into a sort of a general low carb lifestyle.
Define a period that you're comfortable to share with. 2 weeks?
Yeah, maybe a couple of weeks would be enough.
Couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Is that an answer, Wilson? Couple of weeks. 2 weeks? Oh, if I lock you down, this morning didn't get off the hook, people. 2 weeks keto, get a refeed. So
yeah, a refeed kind of process, and that allows your body to remember how to produce insulin again, because your body does need to produce it at certain times. And but if you're already insulin sensitive, it's not a problem.
And then let's talk just for a second, another little side note that something that comes up with ketogenic diet. Often there's a discussion that it might have a negative effect on my gut health.
No.
How do I eliminate the likelihood of that happening? So I eat high net carb vegetables, for example.
Yeah, so as long as you're still having vegetables in your diet, so you're still getting the fiber in your diet, you're still feeding the fiber to your gut. So you're getting the fiber feeding the gut bacteria. So the consequence of negative gut microbiome happening is not going to happen if you eat a good ketogenic diet.
And for you, are you 80% and how much carbohydrates? 20%? Like where do you sit for your classification of keto?
Well, you classify it based upon the amount of net carb per meal. So the net carb per meal needs to be less than, I would say, 8 grams net carb per meal. So you're getting below 30 grams net carb per day. So if you're below 30, hardcore keto is below 20 grams net carb
per day.
So per day. So
give me a tangible. If I was to sit down right now to a dinner plate of broccoli,
yeah,
let's say, or a dinner plate of arugula, or a dinner plate of kale, or a dinner of spinach.
yeah.
Give me a rough estimate of what the net carb would be of that.
Well, now you're putting me on the spot.
Haven't we got it down, ladies and gentlemen?
Out of all of those, arugula and kale would probably come out as the lowest net carb value. Broccoli would be a little bit higher. But I think...
But these are good choices if
Yeah.
you are following ketogenic diet and you want to get that great fibre in to maintain good...
well, I think the better choices would be more... I would try to stick with those. Maybe onions, asparagus. Try. Yeah, so you need to get some allium vegetables. Always keep the onions, garlic, and the chives. So yeah.
Another superfood. My God, they're coming out fast and furious now.
Fast and furious. So those are, I mean, the general intention with a ketogenic diet is just to keep below the grams. And you can have a mixture of starchy, medium starchy vegetables with low starch. As long as it keeps below that limit, you're going to be fine.
So to my point that I was trying to illustrate, I didn't do a very good job of. If I have a cup of broccoli with dinner, mate, I'm well within.
Yeah.
I'm well within. And a cup is a decent amount.
Right.
You know, people think, oh, God, what, can I just have one broccoli stalk?
Right.
No,
can't
you'll have a fair crack.
Yeah. So but then obviously it has to be measured with your glucose. So what is your glucose?
That measurement.
What is your glucose doing after you eat the meal? So some people are reacting to a food, and what will happen is their glucose will go a lot higher if they're reacting to a food than if they're not reacting. So that's why glucose can be an indicator not only of glucose sensitivity but food reactivity. So instead of doing a food sensitivity test, you can use the glucose monitor to tell you if you're reacting to a certain...
The continuous glucose.
Which I put
in my arm.
Yeah, and that's a good way to determine that kind of response. Yeah. So as a longevity marker, I will put insulin right at the top. And if you manage your insulin, then your glucose, and then your meal based upon that, then you really do very, very well.
Can I just add one more tip, because I think that was a valuable tip? Getting the liver pate, putting it in your kid's meal and your own, for goodness sake, or your wife, or your, I was going to say missus, or your wife or husband or a significant other.
Yeah.
But when we have broccoli at home and you get some olive oil, a pinch of salt, and dice up the garlic, mate, drizzle that over your broccoli, cauliflower, whatever it is, and makes it an already superfood into whoever could beat Superman in a fight is probably eating that food.
Yeah. And
superfood.
Yeah, and I think if you want to add another class of superfoods to your diet, it would have to be the berry fruits.
Go on.
So we know that berries contain a class of compounds called polyphenols, and those polyphenols are critical to certain types of bacteria which are very important in the gut for maintaining your immunity and for stabilizing your immunity. So this is where food becomes medicine, because we start to really appreciate the compounds within fruit, certain types of fruit, and how they really impact the gut microbiome. So certainly blueberries, blackberries, cherries, strawberries, all those are the top.
Following your ketogenic diet,
and then low GI as well, which is following a keto. Yeah, exactly. So
I tell you what, they'd go all right with a bit of natural yogurt, wouldn't they, Miles?
Oh yeah, natural yogurt. If you go straight from a cow, unpasteurized. Yeah, we can't find.
Unfortunately, can't do that. But I would probably drop a couple of macadamias in there as well.
Well, you could.
Jeez, I'm having a great time. You said polyphenols, and in my mind I went coffee.
Yes,
in my mind I went coffee, but here we go again. Coffee, we sort of open up a can of worms, because coffee gets mentioned in the Journal of Alzheimer's disease. It gets a pretty good rap. It is it's incredibly well researched. Yep. It's an incredibly proficient ergogenic aid. There's not much more research behind coffee, whey protein, creatine monohydrate as a bit, but I think caffeine from coffee is a very interesting one. But it becomes your friend as long as you're getting adequate recovery.
But I think it's not the caffeine which people should be focusing on for the brain. It's the caffeic acids, the range of caffeic acids which are in coffee, which are 20 different types of acids in coffee, which have the beneficial effect on your gut microbiome. So it really improves the gut microbiome diversity. and those caffeic acids actually have the effects on the brain. So the caffeine itself is actually stimulating the adrenal function to produce adrenaline and
Stimulant.
and that's the stimulant effect of coffee. But the beneficial effects of the caffeic acids, which are a whole number, are what's giving the longevity, gut benefits, which coffee is really good for.
As long as you're getting enough recovery. Don't use it as a way because I'm not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, so the point is use coffee judiciously. You're not overstimulating your adrenal glands. And make sure the coffee doesn't have any mold in, because coffee is a great source of mold. So make sure it's frozen.
How did you do that, mate? That just took away from my enthusiasm.
Yeah, I know.
And I was
You're
getting all
gonna be careful,
excited
mate.
about coffee and that. How would I know mold?
Well, coffee is one of the major sources of mold, as is grains. So you've got to be careful how long that coffee's been sitting in that bag, sitting in that sort of chamber, not being milled and exposed to humidity, light, temperature variation. Right. So, we've got to keep the coffee in the freezer or in the fridge and make sure you only take it out, put it straight back in. So you're limiting any mold growth, especially in Hong Kong. It's hot here, mate.
Mate, you know what? You just gave me another action point. I'm going to keep the coffee in the freezer or the fridge. That
always.
Okay. My wife doesn't do that. Well, she's Italian too. Have coffee more than me. Well, for goodness sake. Hey, you know what? Another little bonus adds to a sponsor of this show, Mu Vitality. Every morning when I have my coffee, and I have one in the morning, come in here, I add my lion's mane mushrooms, mate. And let me tell you, I do enjoy coffee now. I don't really know what it tastes like because I've had so many things to it. I had like a collagen protein, and then I'll add my lion's mane mushrooms from Mu Vitality mushrooms. And I reckon, just say coffee without the functional mushrooms is good. But when I add that lion's mane, mate, I really feel that cognitively.
You're like a lion growing out of you? Yeah. What do you feel like exactly?
I think I feel, having a grasp of my own intellect, I feel that I outperform my own intellect by using lion's mane. That's what I feel, mate.
Very good.
I should have took some before this interview, then.
You're doing fine, mate.
Thank you. Stay with me on nutrition. So my understanding so far from you is that you are a proponent of the ketogenic diet for longevity due to the way that it controls insulin.
Well, it's ketogenic for people who don't have enough time for exercise. If you're doing a lot of exercise, which you should be doing anyway, I think a low carb is just fine enough. But monitoring your glucose and insulin levels will tell you if you should shift from low carb to keto or go from keto to low carb. I think that's the personification of how you determine whether or not you should go from one to the other.
Yeah, the more muscle you have on your frame, then the more glucose you can store.
Exactly. So the more potential, the more potential you could then go do low carb.
Yeah.
Not necessarily keto.
Go at it.
Yeah. So that would be the first point from a nutrition sensing perspective. And then there's the whole debate about longevity for fasting, which
isn't there, mate?
Which is a huge debate. And I think in the days of Peter Attia and David Sinclair saying that you should fast for 18 hours or 24 hours or 3 days or 7 days, I think what really determines if you should fast is the existing conditions you are presenting to tell you if you should be fasting. So if you're suffering from a chronic condition, if you're chronic disease, if you've got pain, if you've got some autoimmune dysfunction, then I think fasting could be very beneficial.
Oh, really? I know you're going to say the other way there because that's stressful and fasting is a stress. But so break that down for me.
So what you're doing is when you're fasting, you're helping to reset your immune system. So the immune system is basically gone deranged because of some disease, autoimmune or chronic disease. You've got inflammation in the body. And what you're trying to help the immune system is just reset and reboot. And when you do that for a period of 3 days, that's what happens. So those immune cells, which are senescent, old, they are
zombie cells.
Zombie immune cells,
isn't it?
You take those zombie immune cells out of the body, and then your body starts to reset itself in a normal way. Now, and that's not the panacea for all autoimmune or chronic disease. But what I would say is that it would go some way to helping the immune system reset. And then you can do other things to help the body reset. So there's certain drugs which can help to do that. So things
like certain compounds such as spermidine, which is sort of fasting mimetic, for example.
Yeah. So there's rapamycin, which is blocking the protein pathways in the body. So certain other things you can add in to help to stimulate that immune system reset. But most importantly is the gut. If you want to reset the immune system, you've got to reset the gut. A lot of people have immune system problems. They don't realize a lot of it's coming from the gut dysfunction. And that is silent for most people. A lot of people are just going through daily routines, daily lives. They don't have any gut pain, gut symptoms or anything. But the gut is dysfunctional and is then creating the cascade of other symptoms people are experiencing.
One thing that I just wanted to add to the conversation on fasting, because it is such a part of popular culture, and maybe in the lab of Joint Dynamics, a lot of people come in and they ask us, so it mightn't be an actual representation of life out there in Hong Kong, but certainly here when people come in and say, oh my goodness, I need to fast, I heard about this thing called fasting, and one of the first things that I'll say to people is absolutely fasting can be beneficial for your health, but how about we play with, because it is calorie restriction, how about we have the acronym CRON, calorie restriction with optimal nutrition. So if you are going to decrease the amount of calories, quote unquote calories that you get into your body, the calories that you do get into your body, because calories aren't just a unit of energy, calories are a messenger to your body that tells your body to do certain things. And if you're only having 800 calories a day, and you're getting that from any refined carbohydrate source with anything from a fast food, then you're really, really doing yourself some damage. I was going to say immeasurable damage because I want to be emotional, but let's just say you can do yourself some damage. If you are going to decrease your calories or your feeding window, then just make sure you are doing CRON, calorie restriction with optimal nutrition. Foods that you eat should be loaded with nutrition. Like Miles and I was, maybe you're going to have some liver with some broccoli with olive oil. Well, just established olive oil with chopped up garlic and a little bit of salt. My God, it tastes great as well. So one thing that I always wanted to share with clients out there in the gym here at Joint Dynamics and then on this platform is, of course, time restricted eating can be great, but in the window that you have, don't mess around and have crap food. No. Don't do it because your body... Do you like the triage theory of nutrition from Bruce Ames? Have you heard that? What is that? Basically, Bruce Ames is a scientist. He switched his attention to nutritional science and he came up with this theory that he called the triage theory of nutrition. So I'm going to make up some numbers. Let's say the body needs 100 nutrients a day. I just made that. That doesn't need... That's just a metric that I made to make my story sort of understandable. He said, just say the body needs 100 nutrients a day and it needs 60 of those to do short-term things and then it needs 20% of those to do medium-term and it needs, another 20% for long-term. So the short-term might be digestion, the medium-term might be healing from a cut or a wound or a workout maybe, and the long-term might be DNA repair. For example, just example. And what he was saying, the triage theory is if you need 100 nutrients a day, and you're only getting 70 nutrients per day as a result of a compromised diet, then your body will triage and it will go, you know what, I need to look after myself today, so I'm going to compromise on mid and long term just to get the stuff that I've got to do today done. Yep. And as a result, insidiously, I will build up disease. Have you ever heard of that? I love it. And I listen to that sort of a story like that with clients all the time because it's very easy for me to understand that, holy cow, I need a certain amount of nutrients every day. And the more I stress myself, more of those nutrients such as magnesium and glycine, thank you for letting us know. So I need to have an awareness of that. And even just the awareness of that feeds a strategy.
But then you see, Andrew, what you're talking about is how do you put that in a practical sense to help people understand what they're missing? Because that's the point we're getting at here. Because you and I see people eating a very healthy diet all the time. And yet I test people on their nutrient status and they're deficient.
Yeah, this is the next level.
Talk too late. So what we find is that you have to take the level of analysis. People go, but Miles, I'm eating all this broccoli, I'm eating all this cabbage, I'm eating all this, but I still can't sleep at night. Oh, okay, well, what macronutrient deficiencies or other deficiencies do you have which is contributing to that in the first place? Foundationally, are you foundationally sufficient? Coming back to your triage theory, if you're not foundationally sufficient, no matter what sleeping pill you're going to get from your doctor, it's not going to fix the neurotransmitters you need to support with the foundation of requirement of nutrients you need to have. If you don't get that basic foundation, forget about that sleeping pill you're going to be addicted to for the next 10 years of your life. Forget about it. So people need to break that down and understand it and say, right, okay, I realize I'm not getting enough magnesium. How much do I need? Recommended daily allowance says 400 milligrams. Okay. 400.
That's the RDA. What do you say?
What do I say? Well, what does your marker tell you? So your marker tells you that you have to take double that. So Dr. Peter Attia, the anti-aging guy, he takes 1 gram of magnesium a day. I have now started taking 900 milligrams a day just to get my levels back up to normal. But I've been very consistent at measuring my magnesium.
Yeah.
So I know for a lot of people, that's like, oh my God, that's really analytical and detailed. Well, how are you going to fix your health? If you don't fix the elements of what is normal functioning, then you're not going to function normal. That's it. What does it require to function normal? So it's not the element of disease is the absence of nutrients. If you think about
beautiful. Say that again.
So elements of disease development is not actually a disease occurring out of nothing. It's the absence of nutrients to control full function in the body to develop that disease. So I believe that a lot of things related to diabetes, for example, is the absence or too much of carbohydrates, which cause diabetes to occur. And the downstream effects of that is damage to your kidneys, brain, heart, and all sorts of other things. Right.
Yeah.
Then you talk about skin disease. So if you talk about vitiligo is a skin disease when you lose your pigments in your skin. A lot of doctors...
Michael Jackson.
Right. So what do you do about it? Well, you can't do anything about it. You just either take steroids or you live with it. But actually, we know that vitiligo is a deficiency of tyrosine, which is an amino acid which changes to melanin in the skin. And in the absence of copper, which makes melanin. So you need tyrosine, you need copper, then you make melanin. Well, how many doctors are testing this in their patients who see them with vitiligo? But this is a deficiency-related condition which is causing a disease. And if you think about it, for a lot of people, there's no way of determining that when they have these conditions. There's a lot of conditions which are associated like that. So you've got to go back to the basics.
When you sorry to interrupt you, Miles, but when you put in that context, because I'm all about practicality, and especially that's what clients come. They want to know, okay, absorb the science and then just tell me what to do in a practical way.
Yeah.
And often, because I know testing is so important, but I think a lot of people go, well, maybe I just don't want to spend the money on testing, so I'm sort of just going to play the percentages. But the way that you just put that, actually to spend the money up front, get the testing, to get a snapshot of
baseline.
Yeah, to get a baseline and get my nutrient status, which will then lead to really effective strategies, you would have to say would save me money.
Exactly.
In the long run for my medical bills, which will manifest as a result of that nutrient deficiency. I
was just telling you a study I read the other day about magnesium. Everyone talks about magnesium. Magnesium prevents brain shrinkage, and brain shrinkage is the major contributor to Alzheimer's development. So you slow down the shrinking of your brain. So if you optimize your magnesium, let's forget about sleep, forget about muscle relaxation. Let's just talk about one of the major contributors of death, which is Alzheimer's. So if you would...
And we have no cure for me.
Well, we don't. And there's a major drug coming out now, but there is, the simple form of magnesium which stops the brain shrinkage or slows it right down. But how many people are getting enough? And are we getting enough? Because, as I say, a lot of people have a higher requirement. So, that's just one nutrient out of many to optimize. And some people need to know that specific level.
That's good for me to know, mate. I haven't got the best brain in the world anyway, and all those years of boxing and playing rugby league, I should get my brain's been shrinking and didn't start at
the grab. You can't go on.
Get some magnesium into me. And so let's say on magnesium, because I know there's magnesium glycinate and magnesium threonate, and then there's what would you suggest? Let's go brain nervous system. What's the type of magnesium?
So magnesium threonate has been known to get across the brain barrier, get into the brain. So that doesn't mean that other magnesiums will not get into the brain. They will. But magnesium threonate has a role specifically. And then you've got magnesium glycinate for absorption, very well absorbed. Magnesium citrate, again, very well absorbed, but again, a bit more for the gut-based health for magnesium citrate. And then there's other for magnesium oxide you can have, but it's
If I get a bit of a dodgy tummy,
exactly. I'm not a fan of magnesium oxide. So glycinate, citrate, threonate are my top forms. Don't go for those.
Load me up. And then the foods, give me some green leafy vegetables,
Green leafy vegetables, avocados, great sauces, and meats, of course. Don't forget, meats are going to have a great sauce with it. Yeah, let's say no more.
Say no more.
Yeah.
Righto, mate. So anything else that we should add to this discussion on longevity? Because what's evident is my level of understanding, and I'm relatively confident because I love this, I'm passionate about it, and I do it every day. But then what's evident in this discussion for all of those is just like, oh my goodness, Miles knows so many more, and he brings in so many more levels, and that's the benefit of seeing a professional such as yourself. So I don't think it adds any value for me to add some more stuff about this conversation. What I think adds value, because you do this in your way every day, what are some really big rocks that you think have been left out of this conversation that would add value on the topic of longevity? We've covered a fair bit, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to increase my magnesium intake. I'm going to discuss with clients on glycine as well with extra stress. I'm going to, those people that aren't so active, physically active, with not enough muscle mass, with a low muscle mass, I'm going to suggest that they explore a ketogenic diet for 2 weeks and then get a refeed and that sort of stuff.
The rabbit hole of understanding your exposure to toxins in this city is not really appreciated at all. So the conventional way of understanding, why am I so tired? Why am I so fatigued? Why have I got so much brain fog? Why I'm only bloody 50 years old. Why am I feeling like this? So a lot of doctors just don't go to the deep dive of toxin evaluation. And we know that mycotoxins, which are toxins from mold, are very present in Hong Kong. Humidity, high temperature, perfect for mold growing on the walls and bathrooms and toilets in buildings. So we need to be aware of that as a potential exposure. Then we've got heavy metals. We're living next to a country which is the biggest mercury polluter in the world. So China produces more mercury than any other country in the world. And Guangzhou is the second top producer of mercury apart from the Shanghai district. So Guangzhou, right next to here, is the highest emitter of mercury.
Part of the Greater Bay Area, the Greater Bay Area, yeah.
So the thing with mycotoxins, can you see it? No. Can you see mercury? No. But it's slowly and insidiously getting into our food chain, getting into our bodies, creating a whole list of chronic diseases which have not been evaluated or tested by the general medicine. And if you knew that and you could find out what it is causing your potential condition, that's something to look out for. But it is the slow damaging effect of these toxins to your mitochondria, to your cells, causing inflammation, which beyond a perfect diet, beyond a perfect healthy regime you could be doing day in, day out, but something insidiously is weakening you and making you age faster. So understanding the presence of toxins and if you need to detoxify is the final piece in the model puzzle I would ask people to consider. Because, the knowledge is out there. Perfect exercise, great nutrition, great diet, but you're still not feeling right. What's going on? And that would be the puzzle to look for.
And what would be one practical element I could do to mitigate the danger of living so close to all that mercury? Like, for example, could I get one of those air filters and put it in my lounge room and in my bedroom or my kid's bedroom?
That's a very good start. That's a very good start to get an air filter. And maybe a water filter for your water coming out of your tap.
Got one. Hello. Can I walk around and breathe through my shirt and
you could
make it through?
But that's too late now, mate.
Too late?
Yeah, it's too late.
My shirt's not good enough.
Well, not good enough, to be fair. But I would start to eat more cilantro. Cilantro, coriander.
Cilantro, mate.
That's a great herb. That's a great herb.
Love that stuff.
So that helps to eliminate some heavy metals.
I smash that every week.
Yeah. So, and the glycine helping support your glutathione.
Where should I get glycine from?
So it's going to be a collagen protein. It's going to be as an amino acid powder. You can get glycine.
Bone broth.
This is your sources of glycine. So So anyway, understanding your basics there would help. Yeah.
Holy cow. And then
It's a lot.
to finalise the start of this conversation, I thought there was a guy, Dr. Gary Becker, who actually won the Nobel Prize in 1992 for economics. And basically, I'm simplifying, did a lot of work on socioeconomic status, but thank goodness for Gaz. I don't know if that's respectful, Dr. Gary Becker. Thank goodness for that guy. He basically said that to increase the output of the workforce, they need to be healthier. Dude got a Nobel Prize for that. And that's the work that hopefully we do here at Joint Dynamics. And I know that you're doing, well, we do our best, maybe, but we have a certain skill set that we do very well, incredibly well. Yeah. And then it's great that we have the opportunity to collaborate with practitioners such as yourself here in Hong Kong.
And I think, well, we're doing both a great job doing the physical, doing the biochemical, and I think it's a great combo for longevity.
Coaching and support as well. Know how to present information to people so it is practical and usable.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
And then also a massive thanks. Can I try the accent, Wilson? Monday Live for bringing this live to you guys. And just want to say thank you very much for hanging out with Miles and I. We have great fun when we get here together, don't we, Miles? It's our third time we've done a podcast.
Third time, I can't.
Well, actually, you're top of the tree, mate. No,
mate, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I'm knocking them back, let me.
I won't be back for the next year, will I? I'm done now. I'm done. Okay.
I want to say thank you, though, for sharing.
All right. It's great to be here to support. Yeah.
And thank you guys for hanging out with Miles and I.
Yeah.
There was some great information that I believe you can take away today to apply to your life that will make you meet Miles and I at the pub to have a soda water with a bit of lime, to have a cheeky red wine, Miles, on my 98th birthday. Because you know what I'm doing on my 70th birthday? You thought I was gone. Give me 2 more minutes. On my 70th birthday, which is a long time away, I've got a group of mates here in Hong Kong and we meet at the Victoria Recreation Club. We paddle out to Round Island. It's about 4Ks, whatever. Do a workout, lift rocks, paddle back. And I love it. I was going to do it every Thursday and Saturday morning. It's part of my mental health regime. It's part of my physical strength regime. Anyway, this is how big of a dickhead I am. I sent all my mates that I do that with, I send them an invitation to the date of my 70th birthday. I've already sent the invitation to them via our phone, via a message on phone that you have to accept. I made an event and I said on my 70th birthday, boys, we're paddling to Round Island to lift rocks and play and wrestle in the water. And I got the boys to.
Well, I'll watch your video from my place in the UK, my little farm. But I'm going to have, and we'll have, I'll say, well, congratulations, mate.
I'll come and visit after that.
Yeah, come and visit. Yeah, man.
Anyway, which winds up the need for social connection on a great topic on longevity. Come and hang out with me again. Well, yeah, this is what we do at the Joint Dynamics podcast, and I'm going to have another go at getting this out on YouTube, which I'm hoping this is going to go. Hang out with Miles and maybe even Wilson again. So thanks for hanging out, guys.
Thank you. All the best.
As much as I did. And Miles did. If you want to find Miles, check out Peak Metabolism.
PeakMetabolism.com. Miles at peakmetabolism.com, and we'll see you there.
And if you want to come to Joint Dynamics, just check out jointdynamics.com. See you guys.
Bye for now.
Episode.